National headlines matter, but what happens here in Cleveland and across Ohio matters more. That's what we talk about every day. This is the Jake Underwood Show on AM 1420. The Answer.
Hello and good morning. Welcome into the Jake Underwood Show right here, AM 1420, The Answer, 102.9 FM, or you can watch us on Rumble, X, and YouTube when you search the Jake Underwood Show. It is a Monday. It is July 7th, 2026. I am Jake Underwood.
Wait.
What?
July 20th.
July 20th?
You said 7th.
Oh, yes. No, I apologize.
It is a Monday.
Yes, it is a Monday, yeah. Because I put 7/20. It is July 20th, excuse me. 2026. I am Jake Underwood, the man behind the glass. Correcting me is one Mr. Kenny Kidd. Good morning,
Hi.
Kenny.
Good morning.
How's it going, Kenny?
Happy July 20th. Hey,
Yes.
actually, it's my sister's birthday, so happy birthday.
Well,
to
happy
her.
birthday to Kenny's sister.
Yes.
We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to have updates on Iran. That seems to be escalating pretty quickly. Some service members lost their lives. We'll give you the details on that. There could be a government shutdown coming up. That could be happening again. There are some LeBron James updates. That tells you how rough things are getting in the government when I'm going, we got to go to LeBron. We have we need to have a conversation about the Vivek Ramaswamy campaign. We need to have a conversation because I heard some things from local GOPs as well as my experiences and the way that some voters are feeling. We got to have a conversation, and we will do that today. Some changes maybe coming to Ohio's education. We'll see how that works out.
Can't hurt.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll give you the latest on that, and as well as we have a congressional check-in with Congressman Max Miller in about 8 minutes. We'll be talking to him. I'm going to ask him about the Take Care of Americans Veterans Act. We had Adam Miller on last week to talk about it. It was about 60 different bills brought together, and Max Miller did not vote for it, and it did not pass. And I know some people, he was getting ripped a little bit online about that, so I want to make sure that we ask him about that. Because, we know what it, with these bills, we know there could be a lot of stuff in it. So I just, I want to pick his brain on that as well as the Reconsolidation 3.0. It was said to be a major priority. Max Miller voted against it. Like I said, I just want to find out. Just want to find out what he's thinking on it and what he saw that he didn't like. Real quick, you'll notice it is not as hazy outside. Well, that's because the air quality is better, but it's not great. If you got asthma or something, be careful if you're outside. We're orange today. We're no longer dark red. We're orange. So thank you, Canada. Thank you, Canada, for giving us a break. How about that? Isn't it funny they heard about the sanctions? And all of a sudden, all the haze is gone. No. The jet stream is no longer taking it our direction, but it was funny. As soon as that was being discussed, things switched up. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to speak to Congressman Max Miller for that congressional check and pick his brain on some things. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Jake Underwood Show right here. AM 1420, The Answer, 102.9 FM, or you can watch us live on Rumble, X, and YouTube. It's Monday, and that means that we have our congressional check-in with Congressman Max Miller. Of course, he joins us on the Marcello's Hot Honey Pepperoni Hotline right there on Route 18. Stop in there, get yourself a Hot Honey Pepperoni Pizza, and we're honored to speak with him. Good morning, Max.
Hey, what's going on, Jake? What's going on, Kenny? How you doing?
I'm doing well, Congressman. How are you?
Not too bad. I could be doing a little bit better if I would have seen Argentina beat the crap out of Spain the other day. But that didn't go our way. It's not lost on me that that Spain, did not let us use their airspace not too long ago when we needed them. So I'm sad to say that they won the World Cup, but I think they're a bunch of losers.
No, well said. I thought for sure. I'll be honest. I didn't even watch. I'm like, oh, Argentina's got it, and then it went the way that it did. So yeah. We gotta hop into some of the serious stuff here because I'm seeing a lot of people critique you online, and just a lot of the critics are out there, and there are two things in particular, and that's what I really want to make sure that I give you that chance to explain how you voted and why you voted that way. And let's just begin to talk about the vote that you had on the Take Care of American Veterans Act, or the TCAVA. Walk us through your vote against that bill.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It was super easy. That bill that we were going to vote on had cuts in it to veterans. And I am not going to vote for any bill that has cuts. Now, people are going to tell you that sleep apnea and tinnitus were already going to be cut, and that's fine. The administration can go ahead and make those cuts on their own. However, I, as a member of Congress who represent 800,000 people and a slew of veterans, as the VFW opposed this thing completely, that I'm not going to, vote for something that's going to cut veterans' benefits. If they would remove that from the piece of legislation, then I would go ahead and advance it to the floor. But all I did is to refer it back to committee on a procedural vote. And everyone is losing their mind over it because apparently a lot of people would look for benefits. And it's incredibly sad that a lot of, individuals throughout this process and members that I work with are out there saying, illicit points that just aren't true. And so I was proud to, stand my ground, support the VFW, and to support veterans by not cutting their benefits. And to be clear, Jake, the Vice President of the United States and President Trump are asking us in Congress to vote for a $200 billion supplemental with a non-enforceable SAVE Act with zero offsets or cuts. And that is incredibly hard for me to swallow. So here I am in Congress, and I am supposed to fund everything that is going on right now with no offsets while cost of goods are up and oil prices are up. And this is what we're going to go ahead and talk about. I mean, this is what's so frustrating to me at this current point when we're just, 5 months away from November and we have yet to fix these issues. So, look, I'm not for cutting veterans' benefits. It's as easy as that. If people want to, criticize me for that, then I'll take the criticism all day. But I'm proud of that vote and I stand by it.
Yeah, because I think it's in the way that it was sold. Because we even had some people on last week that were calling in and they would bring it up and they talked about how, it was going to expand OBGYN care, maternity care, breast cancer screenings, all these different things. And the big focus that I noticed what people were talking about was the mental health side of it, that it was going to provide extra benefits when it came to mental health care for the veterans. I think that's why people are so in an uproar about it, because these are the benefits that they heard about, and then all they see is the headline that you voted no, and they're going, what is this guy doing?
Right, but those benefits still can come back, and what I want them is to be more encompassing for everyone who needs them. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not looking to box anybody out of this process who is a veteran who needs the help. As a United States Marine, and as somebody who served in uniform, I want to make sure that our brothers and sisters are always going to be taken care of. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I would rather have the right piece of legislation go through, Jake, than the wrong piece of legislation, because we see that all the time. And we have a host of veterans out there. And for any of the VSOs or any of the veterans organizations who are listening, how tough of a time you and our office have getting our veterans disability who rightly earned it, who need it every single day. And this is a reality check, and I want to make sure that we can take care of the most amount of veterans at once and with the right piece of legislation. And instead of advancing bad pieces of legislation that we think is good for a short amount of time, and then you know what, Jake, you and I and Kenny will be on in 4 years from now, and then you'll be like, wow, that was a really terrible vote that you took. And that seems to happen quite a bit in Congress as we go from a place that will remove a speaker for, putting a CR on the floor to now having a speaker, Mike Johnson, to where we put a CR on the floor every 3 months, including this week.
And so last question about this bill, just because I'm curious. So if Congress brings a revised version of this legislation back to the floor, what changes would you need to see made before you could support it?
It's super easy. I already said it. No cuts to no cuts to tinnitus or sleep apnea.
Okay.
Those are the two things. And it's really easy and it's really simple. And once again, I'm not going to vote to cut veterans' benefits. I mean, if they want to put a different piece of legislation on the floor that doesn't have cuts to veterans' benefits who need them, then yeah, I'm happy to vote for it. But this is the issue sometimes with members of Congress, is that they would rather fall in line with leadership and everyone else and just be fed what they're given, as opposed to doing and taking the right vote for their people. Because, look, if you take tough votes, you get people who, don't like the votes that you take because maybe they're not familiar with the understanding of it, or they truly believe their position. Either which way, I fundamentally believe for our district and the VFWs that are here and listening to our constituents, that was the right vote to take. And I'd be happy to support that. And also there's the Richard Starr Act, which has been out there. And the other thing I'd like to bring up real quick, Jake, is that this bill that we're talking about, TACFA, it was never going to be brought up in the Senate. And no one is even talking about that it's never going to become law. And that's the other side of the coin of where I'm getting very frustrated. No one's talking about it. I mean, leadership even told us that this wasn't going to become law and that the Senate would never put it on the floor, specifically because of those cuts in that bill.
So why do you think
that's what's disheartening to me?
Yeah, why do you think it gained the momentum that it did, though? Because it sounds like it would just be another bill that would go to the Senate and sit, and nothing would happen.
Well, what else happens, Jake?
Yeah.
That's been this Congress, brother. I mean, literally, this has been one of my biggest frustrations with Speaker Mike Johnson and some of this leadership, okay? All they want to do is sell you on messaging. And I'm sick of it. I mean, you could hear it in my voice. Yeah. I am no actor. The Republican Party doesn't frickin' pay me to pump their tires, okay? I call them out just like I do Democrats every single day. But at the end of this entire process, this is nothing more than a messaging bill, just like the SAVE Act. I mean, right now, the SAVE Act that they are trying to put through in reconciliation, Jake, it's not enforceable. And the administration is telling people that it is enforceable, but it's not. And its liberal states do not follow the SAVE Act. If we pass it through reconciliation, they will only face a penalty, and that penalty is a fine, which they may not even have to pay. And the biggest states that we have illegal voters in would be Illinois, California, New York, and those are the states that are going to give us the middle finger. So altogether, whether we're going to talk about veterans and TACFA, or we're going to talk about the SAVE Act, what I'm seeing, even going to work right now as a member of Congress, is that these are all messaging bills that are meant to die in the Senate or are meant to pull the wool over the American people's eyes just so we can keep the majority to live and fight another day. And that's saying the quiet part out loud. And it's just a sad thing that we have given so much hope to all of these people who want the same thing that I want, better veterans benefits, but they're being lied to. And finally, I'm just sick of lying, I am sick of accepting the lies from leadership to push out to the American people that I won't stomach.
So is this just, in your opinion, do you think this is just a play where they're trying to play it safe till November and then they'll try to do something else? Like I mean, we know ultimately the goal is to get reelected, but is that what this is right now? They just put out the right messaging and they hope the people pick it up and then they'll have somebody to defend them in November?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm not going to give you any long run answer because that's the truth right there, man. I mean, leadership continuously is. Look at all the bills we've put on the floor, Jake. All of these bills that have gotten a serious amount of momentum, and they have all died up in the Senate. Every single one of them. Why would this bill be any different? The only landmark piece of legislation that we were actually able to pass out of the House was reconciliation on July 4th of last year. I mean, you could say reconciliation 2.0, sure, but that was a skinny, and it was just to fund the government and fund CBP and ICE because the Democrats held our country hostage for 3 months. I mean, but those are the two tangible things. Everything else, the SAVE Act, TACFA, you name it, lowering, drug prices and pharmaceuticals. Have we gotten that done? No, but you've heard a lot about it, haven't you? I mean, I share the same frustration as all of our constituents do, but I'm not going to sit here and give you talking points from Speaker Mike Johnson that, aren't based in reality. So.
Well, yeah, and then, first I want to thank you because you cleared up, and I'm sure there's still going to be people that are upset about the vote, but you at least cleared it up, and people don't have to ask why anymore. They understand it. And, you talked about the reconciliation at 3.0, and it's the messaging, which, look, I mean, it's election time. I think we all kind of expect it. I think what leaders in Congress aren't necessarily realizing is that a lot of people, they already see through the message. They know the election's coming up, and they can kind of see through that haze. And it's not the Canadian wildfire haze. It's actual just political, messaging haze. And they can kind of see through it. And with this now comes the messaging of we're going to have to face a government shutdown. Things are going to get shut down. And that's going to be more pressure on the voter. What are you making of those talks? Because I don't know if you saw Senator Fetterman was on Fox, and he's talking about another shutdown and just the back and forth that's going to happen there. What do you make of all that talk?
I mean, I would assume that the Democrats would go ahead and push us to the brink of a government shutdown once again right before, November for strictly political reasons and not based off what's best for the country. I actually like Fetterman. He was actually talking about leaving the Democrat Party the other day. And I don't know if you saw the interview. It was hysterical. But he said his party is literally, drinking the Jim Jones Kool-Aid every single day. So, but I mean, look, when it comes to the CR, I do believe that we have enough votes in the House, at least on the Republican side, to pass it. I really do. But once again, I mean, all this is a clean continuing resolution. And if Democrats actually don't vote to support it, I mean, then that just shows you that they really don't care about what's best for the country. Because this would be the same bill that they would put up if they were in the majority. It is no different. And Speaker Johnson has said that before on two of the other CRs that we have voted on. And we've used it as talking points to try to entice them to vote for it. But at the end of the day, they'll continue to weaponize, really good pieces of policy or legislation to hold the government hostage to help them politically. So, I mean, we saw them do it with our justice system to President Trump over the course of the last 4 years. They're no different as members of Congress and still there.
So before I let you go, because we got a few minutes left here, I want to make sure I ask this because I had people, because they know we talk on Mondays and they're going, you got to ask Max about this and this and this. And I ask those questions, but now I want to ask you. So those votes, it raised questions to some of the conservatives in the district. I think, and I try to explain this because you have explained this before, and I think you're right when you say, you are a Republican, but you represent the entire district, and there aren't a lot of reps that think of it that way, and you have to. That's how you keep your job, and more importantly, that's how you get things done, and you have done that. So what would you say to the people in the district that want to understand why you vote the way that you do and kind of see past those headlines that they might be saying? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, over the course of the last, 3.5 years since I've had the honor of being in this capacity and, for the 1.5 or 2 years I ran for this position, I really have gotten to know this district. And the bulk of the voters, whether we like it or not, are within half of Cuyahoga County that we represent. And I know it's tough for a lot of our conservative people to hear that, I support Ukraine. It's because we have the largest Ukrainian constituency by any one Republican in Congress, right?
Right.
And when I go up and down our district, and if you look at where we are, Jake, we're not in R30 or in R40 or in R50. Right now, we're in R5. And if you look at the generic ballot, that means you're in an even district right now. And I think a lot of people, don't really see through that. And they see Republican representatives, right, who represent Republican districts. But, I mean, they're Republican districts because those members of Congress keep them Republican by the certain votes they take and how they interact with their constituency. And I've said this, before on your show, no one is ever going to bat 1,000. And nor do I think I'm going into the Hall of Fame, okay? But I like to think I'm a 280 hitter with like maybe 27 home runs and 51 ribbies. And I believe that's exactly.
Oh, Congressman, we're losing you.
Oh, sorry. You got me now?
Yes. Yep.
Sorry. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's, look, it is the members of Congress who are able to connect with their constituents in order to keep their districts, the way that they are. And I'm proud to say that, we've been able to do that over the last 2 terms, and we will be able to do that this November. And look, I'm extremely accessible. If anyone, and as you know, Jake, if people have questions, they're free to ask. And, I've never ran away from a tough question.
Right.
But when it comes to, voting for the district and being there, that's something that I'll always do and hold true to those values. So, everyone's, got their own district. Let's put it this way. Jim Jordan couldn't win a general in my district, okay? And I couldn't win a primary in his. So that's how and I would tell that joke to the chairman himself as I'm saying it publicly on your show, and everyone would know that to be true. And you're laughing because it is true.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Well, Congressman, I want to thank you for your time today. We'll talk to you next week. Have fun. Have fun this week.
Oh, it'll be a choppy one. Then we'll catch up next week. I appreciate it.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you. That, of course, Max Miller. That was weird. That, of course, Congressman Max Miller joining us on the Murcello's Hot Honey Pepperoni Hotline. We're going to take a break. We'll talk about what he had to say when we come back right after this. Welcome back to the Jake Underwood Show right here. AM 1420, The Answer, 102.9 FM, or you can watch us on Rumble, X, and YouTube. When you search the Jake Underwood Show, big thank you to Congressman Max Miller for joining us, giving a little bit of a background on why he voted the way that he did. Because as I said, there were a lot of people frustrated about the vote. I don't know necessarily on the reconsolidation as much as the Take Care of American Veterans Act, but that's why it's important to know the background on things. When it comes to the veterans bill, if they're being told that this is really just for messaging to get people, all excited and worked up, and it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate, which seems to be the habit these days, why even deal with it? So I understand that part of it. Mm-hmm. And plus, if it's going to cut veteran spending, then you don't want to mess with it.
No, and that's the problem with a lot of these bills is they're always filled with all this extra junk and stuff that you don't know about unless you go through and you read 9,000 pages or whatever they end up being.
And Thomas Massey, he would call that out every time. Mm-hmm. It would happen where you'd see the stack of papers on the desk and you're going, what is everything in that? Like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. And then you look and things are crossed out and then things were added and this and that and this amended and this and that and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane the way that it is. But and we do have some text here. Somebody said it's very funny. They said, "Hey Jake, I like Max Miller, but he keeps using that illustration about baseball hitters hitting around 250. What if he used a field goal kicker instead?" And then he put LOL.
I'm more of a football guy anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, what about football? No.
It's a Brownstown. Get to know your voters.
Well, it's really funny. And then somebody said Max Miller just gave me an excuse to go out to the bar versus the polls in November. Why waste my time if nothing gets done? I don't know that. Listen, if you go to the bar, it's going to cost you more money, and not going to the polls, as Kenny said during the break when we were talking about it, it's going to cost you more money in the long run.
Yeah.
So you got to go get involved.
The one way you can guarantee your voice don't get heard is by not speaking.
That's right. Or even by not reaching out to the people that represent you. Look, there are a lot of reasons that you could sit there and you could be like, "Oh, Max Miller," and I get it, I understand, and there are some things that you could be frustrated on. But at least, look, he tells you what he's thinking in the moment.
Like I've never heard him back down from a question.
No, absolutely not.
Skirt away from any kind of accountability for what he's voted for and what he hasn't voted for. And if nothing else, I mean, that's what you want in someone representing you.
Well, that's
someone who's going to tell you exactly how they feel and why they did what they did.
And they're not
whether
just
going to agree with it or not. And if you don't agree with it, well, then that's where primaries and stuff come into play.
Right, and they're not just going to go along with party messaging. Party messaging is dangerous because it's not necessarily honest. That's the thing. Like, I would rather have someone be honest with me and go, "Hey, I didn't, I don't like the way this is going because of this and this and this." Because I think that's what, I almost feel like we expect that out of politicians now. We expect it to just be party messaging and everything's rah-rah and it's a constant pep rally. Meanwhile, gas prices go up. People can't get homes. The debt is growing like crazy. I think the last breakdown I saw of the debt, it's $115,000 per person.
The problem with the party messaging is that it's so one-sided because the Democrats always stick together on everything and always vote to get their things across.
Right.
To whereas Republicans look at things a little more in depth and they're like, "Wait, I don't like that. I don't like that. I can't consciously vote for this." And Democrats don't have the integrity. I mean, that's what I see. Yeah, I
mean, Fetterman does. There were a few Democrats that do.
To a degree.
Well, I mean,
for the most part, they're always in lockstep.
Well, and keep in mind, Fetterman votes with Democrats 90% of the time.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he talks a good game, but when it comes time to actually vote, he sounds like he's got some common sense when he's on TV.
Well, I think he does. See, that's just it. I think there are a lot of people who don't want to necessarily go with the party line, but they know that if they don't, there's a good chance that they lose their job in November. Because you have to understand it. If you're looking at it from the Republican point of view, it's, well, we have to support President Trump no matter what. He's a gift from God. Some people think you laugh. Some people think that way, and then you flip it on the other side, and it's, well, no matter what, we have to support the Democrats because we're fighting against the evil fascist. So they have to go along with these party talking points, and if they don't, the headlines get out there, and people just lose their minds. They don't necessarily look into things.
It's insane.
And it's really, it's really a scary thing. And that's what I talk about with that echo chamber. Man, we got to break out of that, because if we don't, it's just going to get more and more polarized and more extreme. And it's going to get to the point that you have some campaigns that don't even talk about the good of the candidate.
Yeah.
They just talk about the bad of the other side's messaging.
How long have we been arguing, or how long have we been rallying against that? Give me a reason. For decades now.
Tell me why you're good.
Exactly. Give me a reason to vote for you.
Right.
Don't give me reasons not to vote for the other
man.
person.
And it gets to, and the worst part about that is that you get bad candidates because they just know how to go up there and complain about what the other side's doing wrong, in their opinion.
Yeah, anyone can do that. I can do that. You want to put me on the ballot in November? I mean, if you want me to complain about, what the other side's doing, I mean, if that's all it takes, I can do that.
But that's
all
what
day long.
That's what it's turned into. And that's why, we talk about how, people don't really seem to be moving along in Congress. Well, because they don't go in there with the agenda of their district. They go in there with the agenda of the party. That's not the way it should work. That's never the way that it should work. And when it does work that way, things get lost, and we see how it gets lost. We see how people aren't represented. We see the different things that can go wrong. We see it each and every day, and every time there's a vote, somebody's upset. Why? Because they feel that they weren't represented. Now, luckily, we have a congressman that comes on here, and you ask him, and he goes, "Oh yeah, no, this is why," and he'll give you the reasons why. But we have a lot of people that just run on, my opponent is bad, and I'm better than my opponent. How are you better than your opponent? I am better than my opponent. And then everybody cheers.
I'm not them.
Right, because of an endorsement they got, and they hope that carries them through to November. And I think what we're starting to see is that's not working. I will say this, it's worked for the last 8 to 6 years. I will say that worked. And I'm even seeing it on the left too. When you watch the way that look at what happened with Graham Plattner. The Democrat messaging did not help him out at all. But how did he get elected in the primary? That's all he did. We talked about that. How all he did was just regurgitate every messaging that he could. And then eventually it caught up to him, and people are going, well, I don't know that I necessarily voted for him as much as I voted for the messaging. And campaigns start to run into problems there. When we come back, it's kind of a segue, and it's kind of related. We need to talk about Vivek's campaign and the way that it's being run. I am in no way saying that I'm like a campaign expert. I'm not. But there are things that I'm noticing. There are things that have been pointed out to me that it's not good. And if it continues, he's not going to win in November. I'm telling you that right now. If it continues going the way that it is now, we're going to have Governor Amy Acton. I will explain when we come back. Welcome back to the Jake Underwood Show right here, AM 1420, The Answer 102.9 FM, or you can watch us on social media, Rumble, X, YouTube, when you search the Jake Underwood Show. Someone sent in during the break some of the breakdown on the numbers of what it is like, because, Kenny, you said for the most part, Democrats seem to vote with Democrats more than Republicans vote with Republicans.
Yeah.
It's a lot closer than you would think. And let me tell you the numbers. So this is since 2019. Democrats vote with Democrats 98% of the time, Republicans 92%. In 2020, Dems 98%, Republicans 95%. 2021, Democrats 99%, Republicans 96%. In 2022, Democrats 98%, Republicans 94% of the time. So it's give or take, because there's also a margin of error in that too.
Yeah,
so
but 5 percentage points can be substantial there. I mean, it's not as bad as maybe we think.
Mm-hmm.
Just on the surface. Maybe it's not as bad as we think. But there always just seems to be like a handful of Republicans that regardless, whatever we're trying to get across the line, they trip us on the way to the finish line.
Well, I think that goes along with party messaging, and I'll give an example. Thomas Massey voted with Republicans the same amount that John Fetterman votes with Democrats. Mm-hmm. So 90% of the time.
And they wanted to kick him out of the Democrat Party too.
But they wanted to kick both of them out over the messaging of the party, not necessarily how they vote. Because if we go back and look at the early 2000s, Democrats only voted with Democrats 86% of the time. That's in 2001. In 2003, they only voted 91%. 2005, they voted 91%. Now, that compared to Republicans in 2001, 94. Republicans in 2003, 95. Republicans in 2005, 93. So still above what the Democrats were. I think the messaging has taken over the actual votes. And what do I mean by that? I mean the substance of the votes. I mean actually what they are voting on. The bill itself should take priority over whatever the messaging is. Because the moment all you got to do, and Kenny, you said if we're just, talking, party talking points and messaging, anybody can run. Mm-hmm. Anybody can run because they could just go up there and say, well, America's great. And then look at the script and go, okay, got that, check that off, okay. Then there's really no substance to it, and then we wonder why things don't get done in Congress. So that divide would be within the party itself, and when it comes to, not voting along party lines, it's not as high as we think it is. Now, I will say this. I think the media loves to focus on the Republicans that don't vote with Republicans because they're going to do whatever they can to sit here and go, oh, there's a divide. There's that divide. There it is. There it is. And they know they can make some money off of that. They know that people are going to watch that, and they know what trends is the Republicans are failing. They know that. They know that's what trends. Now, sometimes it is true. I'm not going to sit here and act like they don't do anything wrong. There are times that happens, but also keep in mind, and Max Miller, when we spoke to him earlier, he alluded to it, there's a lot of just dumb BS in these bills where it sits there and it's doing things that don't even involve the bill. You can name a bill whatever you want to name it. Just because it's the title of the bill, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it's doing. What was the Reduce Inflation Act? How'd that work out? So
the Affordable Care Act.
Right. So, just because it's the name of the bill, and you know what? To be fair, the public's not going to dive into these bills and look at them. They're too busy. They got a life to live. They're too busy about paying bills and make sure the kid gets to school on time or, putting food on the table. They can't sit down and read this legislation. So the party puts out this messaging where they could say, well, this was the greatest bill of all time. We don't know that. We have no idea if that was the case. But they are going to do everything they can to make sure that they get reelected, that they put it out there. That it's I don't know. To me, it's funny that both parties are fighting for the American people. Yet we can't afford houses. Gas is still up. As I've said, the national debt's growing, but they're both fighting.
I don't know who they're fighting.
Right? I don't know either. And I'm not saying this about every member of Congress or that I don't want that to be mistaken. But when all you do is put out generic messaging and there's no substance to it, don't be shocked if when that candidate wins, there's really nothing that happens, that nothing's going to move the needle. Because what did they run on? They ran on that they weren't the other person. But yeah, those are the numbers there with the voting. Yeah, and keep in mind, there's a margin of error with everything. But I mean, the difference is really only 2 to 6 percentage points. Just keep that in mind. So the next time, the media or whoever is sitting there, or even the political parties, because, we could be mad at the media for sitting here and trying to divide and do all that stuff, which we've talked about numerous times, but the political parties do it too. They have to be the most right ever. Even when they're wrong, they're right. Don't know if you knew that. But that's how it works. Politics. All right, I brought it up before we went to break. I sat down this weekend because I got some phone calls this weekend about Vivek, and we're just kind of talking, and I was letting people vent. I was letting people talk about what they're upset about, because there are a lot of staunch Republicans that I know, and they're going, I might not just vote for governor. I don't think I could do this, because I feel like it's not representing me. That's where they're coming from. So I first of all, I want to start off. I started typing. First it started writing stuff down. I go, okay, this is gonna be a bit. It ended up being about 8 pages worth of things that I'm like, okay, these are the things that I'm looking at that concern me about Vivek's campaign and the different ways that I'm seeing things go. And I'm going, we're not going to win in November if it continues like this. And it's going to be really bad. Now, in no way am I saying that I like Amy Acton, because I know the way this is going to go. People are going to get mad, and it's going to be, you're voting for Amy Acton. Then I'm going to start getting phone calls 5:30 in the morning again. Yeah. That's not the case.
Deep State Jake does not endorse Amy Acton.
That's right. Not at all. So this is not an endorsement of Amy Acton. In fact, if I think about it, if the election were today, I would probably still vote for Vivek. I would probably still vote for him. Or I'm going to be honest, I might be one of those people that don't vote at all.
That's insane.
And I agree with you. Kenny. It is insane. But you know what? It really sucks that I'm watching the way that all this is being ran. And I don't know. I don't know, because, the primary was not the hard part. He didn't necessarily earn anything. It was handed to him. So, I see the way that the campaign commercials are going, and it's him awkwardly talking to a kid randomly in a crowd. And it's just, I don't know what he's running on. Yeah, he doesn't like property tax. What doesn't he like about it? What's the plan? We don't know. We don't know what the plan is. You know why? Because it changes every other month. And just when you think you understand it, it switches up again. And what I'm really concerned about, we know the Republicans are going to vote for him. We know this. 67% of voters in Ohio are independent. Time and time again, you could talk to people who ran against Mike DeWine. It wasn't the Republicans who didn't show up to vote against DeWine. It was the independents who voted for DeWine that won them the election. So what is Vivek doing to get this independent vote? Because I see him at every GOP event that he could go to. I see him at the county fair talking to Republicans. How is he getting? What is his campaign? And look, I'm going to say this. I don't know that this is necessarily on Vivek. It's on whoever's running his campaign. But Vivek's going along with it, so I guess there is a little bit of blame there. But, as I said, and I'm going to go through the different points. I don't want people to think that, he's going against it. Not at all. Not at all. And like I said, this is not an endorsement of Amy Acton. Because that's the way people in their head, they go, well, if he doesn't like Vivek, did that automatically mean? No, you know what? I can easily not like either one of them. And I think that's where a lot of people are at with this. But I'm going to go through the different points of what I noticed and what people have been telling me. And I go, you know what? I've heard it enough that we got to talk about it. We're gonna dive into it more when we come back. This is the Jake Underwood Show.
here in Cleveland and across Ohio matters more. That's what we talk about every day. This is the Jake Underwood Show on AM 1420. The Answer.
Welcome into hour number 2 of the Jake Underwood Show right here, AM 1420, The Answer, 102.9 FM, or you can watch us. We're on Rumble, X, and YouTube. Just search the Jake Underwood Show. I am Jake Underwood. The man behind the glass is one Mr. Kenny. Kid, good morning, Kenny.
Hi, good morning.
How's it going, Kenny?
Great.
Good. It's Monday, my dudes.
It is, yeah.
It is Monday. We're getting you started off. We spoke with Congressman Max Miller earlier. If you missed that, you could go and, of course, watch it on Rumble or after the show. The podcast is posted at WHKRadio.com. Let's just hop right into it. All right. We're going to talk among friends here because, obviously, we want the best representation that we can have in the state of Ohio. That's what we want. We want the best governors. We want the best Secretary of States, whoever it might be. We want the best because we want the best for the people. Right now, based on the way that things are going with the Vivek Ramaswamy campaign, I have some concerns. I've worked at campaigns of different levels, different things like that, and I want to say this. This is what I want to say. If at any point there's a disagreement, and if this gets back to Vivek, by all means, call. Clear any of this up because I don't have the inside track on the campaign. I might not know. By all means, call. It'd be nice to hear from you. But as I said, I've spoken to people, and this has been growing for a little bit. But this past weekend, I got phone calls from a few different people, and they're going, "What's going on here? I mean, what do you think?" And I know that for the most part, everybody's going to kiss cheeks. So I'm like, all right, I'll be the one. I'll be the one to sit here and go, these are the things that are concerning. Because I try to be as fair as possible. I really do. And as I said, if somebody from his campaign, if he himself, if they're hearing this and they're going, well, this is completely off base, well, then by all means, call in and call me out and answer some questions. It'd be, like I said, it'd be nice to hear back from you. So, once again, let me start off by saying in no way am I endorsing Amy Acton, nothing like that. If the election were today, I would probably vote for Vivek or I wouldn't vote at all. Just being honest. Just being real about that. I don't want this to come off as bashing. I mean, he's ran a good campaign when it comes to getting the Republican vote. He's got the endorsements of President Trump, J.D. Vance, the Ohio Republican Party. He's built his own businesses up. I'm not saying anything like that. Obviously, he's done well for himself. He's got a lot of money. You got to make some good decisions to do that. He's great at speaking. Obviously, he's very smart. And none of my concerns take away from those strengths that he has. In no way am I saying that he's not smart, he's not a great speaker. He is all of those things and then some. And my concern isn't whether Vivek can win over Republicans. He's already done that. My concern are those independent voters. My concern are the people who didn't vote for him during the primary. Because I know he won every county. He had a great showing, but also keep in mind his opponent was in it for about 4 months, had nowhere near as much money. And there were a lot of people, there was a lot of uproar where they went, we didn't even get to choose. And that's a real concern. And there are a lot of people who still feel that way about this. Like I said, in no way, with what I'm going to talk about, am I taking away from the accomplishments of Vivek Ramaswamy, because he's done some incredible things. But as I said, I brought up the primary. I think we need to understand that the primary was never the hard part. The primary wasn't the challenge. The moment the state party endorsed you, you had it won. There was nobody else. Dave Yost got booted. Casey Putsch stepped up last second because he, like a lot of other people, were frustrated about the fact that Vivek seemed to just be handpicked and placed in there. The only difference between Casey Putsch and a lot of other people is Casey Putsch had the money that he could put up to run. That's the main difference. And you could say what you want about Casey Putsch and, oh, he's this and this and this and this. But the fact still remains there were people frustrated enough, they voted for the guy. I know some people who voted for the guy just out of spite of Vivek getting the appointment the way that he did, because there was no primary. There were no debates. There was none of this. I'm concerned that his campaign is looking at this general election as if it were a primary. You're not getting out in front of people who, like, it's really easy. Look, this would be like Ozzy Osbourne going to Ozfest and going, wow, they all still love me. Can you go to an Anne Murray concert and convert some of those people, Ozzy? I don't know. Well, he can't anymore. Rest in peace. But I need them to understand that the general election is different. And what I mean by that is you're going to have to maybe put yourself into some positions where you're uncomfortable to get those independent voters. Or maybe even sway some of the Democrats over to your side. But he's not doing that. You know, there's an online series now called Where in the World is Vivek Ramaswamy? It's an old play on the Where in the Carmen San Diego. Because he's all over the place. There's reports this morning saying that he's not even in the state of Ohio. Do you know you're running for governor, sir? Do you know that you need to be here and connecting with the different groups and different people? There were reports saying that he was in Europe over July 4th. It's not okay. Like that's not all right, because that's not how you win people over. You're going to need Republicans and you're going to need independents to win this election. Are you able to do that? Because I would argue right now, Amy Acton has a better chance getting independents. Why? Because of the wine with DeWine at 2:00, and she was out there in front of the people. And you know what else? She's just going to different events. She's going to the black neighborhoods, and she's shaking hands, and she's meeting with African American leaders, and she's meeting with the Latino leaders. She's meeting with all these different people. Meanwhile, Vivek is going to a GOP event, standing up there and waving, taking a picture with people. If he doesn't show up late, that's something we'll get into also. But he's not putting himself out there. And if the stuff about him being in Europe over July 4th is true, that's crazy. That's absolutely insane. And where is the person that's on his campaign? Where's the don't do that guy? Can we get a don't do that guy on the payroll? Can we do that? Because right now the campaign is only talking to Republicans. You've won the Republicans, sir. You got them. In fact, you won every county. So you got them, and you're going to have those people that are red no matter what, vote like a pirate day, arr. You're going to have them no matter what. So what are you doing to bring in the vote that you normally can't get, the crossover that's going to help you win the election? What are you doing? Because right now, these are the events that I know of. And if I'm wrong, by all means, tell me I'm wrong. I'm open to being wrong here. But based on what I've seen, based on the things that I've experienced, it's county GOP dinners, Republican clubs, Turning Point USA events, Young Republican events, and conservative conferences. And all of those organizations are great. I'm not knocking the organizations. But those are people who are already voting for you. This is what it reminds me of. On the Kennedy campaign, Bobby kept going to medical freedom conferences. Well, yeah, obviously you got the medical freedom and the people that are against vaccines and questioning vaccines. Yeah, Bobby, you got their vote. What are you doing to go sway Republicans or Democrats to vote for the independent? It's the same thing here. Yeah, you already got the Republican vote, Vivek. What are you doing to get the independents to vote for you? How are you going to reach them? That's my question. That's what I want to know. We got to take a break. When we come back, there's another part of this. So to a quick recap, a lot of people feel he was appointed. He didn't earn the primary win. I'm not saying this is how I feel. I'm saying this is what I'm being told. They're not taking the general election seriously. And he's still only talking to Republicans. When we come back, I'm going to talk about how a meme does not mean a vote. It doesn't mean that it's a meme. What are you doing? Memes don't get young votes, and that's what he's relying on here. I'm going to break down why. When we come back, this is the Jake Underwood Show. Welcome back to the Jake Underwood Show right here, AM 1420. The Answer, we're breaking down from different feedback and things that I've noticed why I feel, and look, I know this will get people mad. I'm not trying to get anybody mad or triggered here, I promise. But why I feel if the election were held today, Vivek doesn't win. I don't think Vivek gets the votes. I really, truly don't. And so this is kind of from the phone calls that I've received, from the different people that I've spoken to, this is kind of my, hey, please, can we get focused here to the people in his campaign, and to Vivek himself. Now, the reports say that he's on a jet somewhere, so I don't know if he's hearing this. Maybe he'll watch it on Rumble, Jake Underwood Show on Rumble. But as I said, memes, online, different things, little behind the curtain here when it comes to engagement on social media. What I noticed, Vivek has 2 million followers on Instagram. That's a lot of followers. That's good following. But when the videos that you post don't even get 100,000 views of the 2 million that you have, there's a problem there. That tells me that I don't know if it's this turning point strategy that we're going to get the young people. I don't know what they're trying to do with the memes and the viral clips and the internet culture. And, you know, when he spoke in Medina, he made like references to TikTok. What? Either way, likes aren't votes. The same way that signs being in people's front yards don't necessarily equal wins. Because there have been a lot of candidates that you see signs all over the place, and you go, well, that's weird they didn't win. I thought I saw a bunch of signs. You might see a lot of signs in your area. It doesn't mean that that's how the whole state is going to feel. The same way that I doubt all 2 million of those followers, for on Vivek's Instagram account are from Ohio. So when a video can't get, as I said, over 100,000 views, there's a problem. And shares aren't votes, views aren't votes, all these different things aren't votes. Followers on Instagram aren't votes. And a room full of Turning Point students isn't the same thing as going after and trying to get them to go out and vote for you. The independent-leaning families in Columbus, you know, the in-betweens of Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati. Real quick, somebody text in. It says, let's see here. Jake, you throw around the term independent voter. Are you saying the majority of Ohioans are registered independents or just registered either Democrat/Republican who call themselves independents? An example would be Sarah Haynes from The View. She calls herself an independent, but I am willing to bet she never voted Republican. Now, that's a good point. Let me explain what I'm saying here. So right now, in the latest numbers, and I know people don't like polls, but we got to follow it here. In the latest numbers, almost 72% of voters in Ohio are independent. What do I mean by that? That's when they're asked, what are you? They go, well, I vote independent. I could go either way. That's what I mean. So, I mean, that's a big majority. And then I think it was 19% identified or registered as a Republican. And then I think it was 12 or 13% registered or said that they were Democrats. That's what I'm talking about. Somebody texted in and said, I get what you're saying, and I'm glad you're bringing it up, but I think the voters remember Shutdown Amy. And that's fine. I'm not, like I said, nothing I'm saying here has to do with Amy Acton. None of it. This is what I'm noticing about the campaign. But Amy Acton's going to be brought up, obviously, because that's an opponent. But like I said, the concern to me is that he's only speaking to Republicans. I don't know if they're hoping that the social media presence is going to be this incredible thing and everybody's going to go, wow, he's got the most followers on Instagram. I got to vote for him. I don't think people care about that. Another point I want to make up, that I want to bring up, that I noticed with talking to people. Where is this guy talking to local media? Where is it? Besides talking to podcasters to get 1,000 views. Where is it? Is he talking? I'll be honest, we've reached out to him numerous times. In fact, I got his campaign manager's number and I texted him to come on. Nothing. And at that point, he's not ignoring me. He's ignoring you, the voter. That's my issue with it. He's ignoring you, the voter. And it's not just on the station. It's on numerous other stations. But he'll go on a podcast. He'll throw some darts at a balloon at the fair and put a video up that doesn't even get 100,000 views. I don't know. Maybe I have to explain this. Radio's pretty important, especially when it comes to elections and different things. And when it's a news radio station, you know what? And I'll be honest, whether it's here or down the dial, it's important for you to reach out and talk to these people. It's important for you to reach out and get in touch with the voter. You haven't done that. And people are noticing it. And they're going, what is this guy doing? What is he doing? And as I said at the beginning of this, if I am wrong, if anybody from the campaign is going, this guy is full of it, if Vivek himself is hearing this and he's going, this isn't necessarily fair, I'm not doing this to try to be unfair. I'm doing this because this is what I'm noticing. I have some experience in campaigns. And I'll tell you, there were even times on Bobby's campaign where I'm sitting there and I'm going, man, this thing's doomed. If I didn't love Bobby as much as I did, I'd be out. There were plenty of moments like that. Now, luckily, I stayed in, we endorsed President Trump and that all went well. But there is no endorsing President Trump in this election. So you got to try to win it. I won't say from what county GOP, but I got 2 calls this weekend from different people in county GOPs. They go, have you seen what Vivek's sending out to county GOPs for their booth? I said, yeah, I saw some pictures. Is that what he's sending out? Yeah. It's a 6-foot cutout of Amy Acton. Now, I want to remind you, for the most part, I know that the South was in Medina. You got the Democrats on one side and you got the GOP on the other. How's it going to look when both have cutouts of Amy Acton? I think he's spending too much time and too much energy on the fact that Amy Acton bad. We all know Amy Acton bad. Here's the problem. I can't defend the guy who's running just by going, Amy Acton's terrible. Well, yeah, what do you like about Vivek? Amy Acton's bad. Mm-hmm. What does that do for us? As I said, I thought I knew where he stood on property taxes, but that changed. I know that he wants to close some schools down. I know that. Well, he changed his mind. He changed his mind on that. And the thing is, as media, we try to reach out to get an answer. Good luck. He's too busy doing podcasts.
See, I keep thinking that maybe this is just a slow roll. Maybe it's really going to amp up.
It's August in a week and a half.
But yeah, we're
how slow can we go?
I know.
How slow can we go? His campaign, and he's got to give voters a reason to vote for him, not against the other person. Because I'll tell you, you want to know why so many people are going, I might not just vote. Because all they're hearing, because Amy Acton, there are a lot of faults there. So people are going, well, I'm not going to vote for her. And people are looking at Vivek and they're going, well, I'm not going to vote for him, because they're just going, well, I'm not him or I'm not her. I'm not Dr. Amy Acton. Well, I'm not businessman Vivek. That's all it is. So you know what you're going to do? You're going to have a lot of people go, you know what? I'm just not voting in that. Maybe they'll go vote on the local stuff, but they're not going to vote in that. He had every bit of momentum. That's what's so confusing to me about it. He had every bit of momentum. He had the Trump endorsement, he had all these different things, and then it just it just fell out. I don't want to say he stopped caring, because I don't believe that's it. I don't know if it's that he has people there that are inexperienced, which, as I said, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a campaign expert. I'm far from it. I have some experience with it. But I can look at something and go, man, you are doing this wrong. Like, this is really bad. And I know, what have I always said? We're red until we're not. We're starting to come up on a moment where the messaging isn't enough, because you're going to have people that go, I don't like either one of them. They're not going to vote. And there's one major thing that has been completely ignored with all of this, and it is the talking point, and it is the concern that I hear from every voter that I talk to. And it's his religion. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, because the faith question is a very important question. And it's just kind of being ignored. And I'm telling you now, there are people that are going, I'm not voting either way. And if Republicans don't show up to vote, he's definitely not going to win. This is the Jake Underwood Show. We'll continue this when we come back right after this. Welcome back to the Jake Underwood Show right here, AM 1420, The Answer 102.9 FM, or you can watch us. We're on Rumble, X, YouTube. Just search the Jake Underwood Show. We're having the conversation about Vivek Ramaswamy, and his campaign. Now, I do have some, I want to get to some of these texts. People are asking, what poll? What poll are you talking about where I said 71% of voters are unaffiliated or independent? I got that from the Secretary of State website here in Ohio. So, total registered voters, just over 8 million. Unaffiliated, 5.7 million. Republican affiliated, 1.5 million. Democrat affiliated, 800,000. Those are the numbers.
Wow.
So, that independent or unaffiliated, maybe I'll start saying unaffiliated instead. Because, I mean, that's really where people are at. Because as I've said, you have the moderate Republican who feels the party's gone too far. You have the moderate Democrat who feels the party's gone too far, so they're unaffiliated. Mm-hmm. That's almost 72% of the voter base here in the state of Ohio. So that's why I keep asking, what are you doing to bring them in? Before we went to break, I said we have to talk about the faith question because I keep hearing it get brought up time and time and time again. And before I say anything, let me be very clear on this. This is not a judgment on Vivek's faith. Only God knows someone's heart. And I pray for everyone, including Vivek. And if God is working in his life, I pray he continues to hear that calling. Okay? But politically, this has become an issue. Politically, it's become an issue because I've heard numerous Republican voters tell me that they cannot vote for somebody who is not Christian. In fact, I've had some, because the last time it was brought up, it was a Turning Point event. And people tell me that they find it hard to believe that he's being genuine when talking about God because he's speaking about a Christian God, but he's not Christian. This is a big deal to voters. That's why I'm saying politically, this is a concern. I don't know the way to address it. I don't know. I don't know the way you want to go about it. I don't know. You'd have to sit down and have an actual meeting about it. But these are concerns of the voter. And unfortunately, for campaigns, you can't pick and choose what's concerning to voters. But this is going to be a major hurdle for people coming up in November. Now, with that said, neither candidate's a Christian. Neither one. Vivek is not. Amy Acton is not. So, I mean, either way, that's another one of those where I'm talking about how if you don't convince them that you're the best candidate, they're probably just not going to vote. Like I'm hearing that way too often. Hence why I go, I need to talk about this on the show because I hear it too often. And I want to make sure people, one, understand where the feedback I'm getting about his campaign, where we're at right now. Like I said, if the election is today, I'm probably voting for him. But there are a lot of people who aren't. And there are a lot of people who are just going to say, I'm going to sit this one out. The main point of all of this, and that this is the part that bothers me the most, I so badly want to defend him. I so badly want to help him get over the hump. I want to be able to when I'm sitting here, well, for a few reasons. One, it makes better radio. It's easier to defend him if, he gives us the talking points or at least puts his message out there. Because the memes and I'm going to tell you the hardest thing about and I said that I hinted at it earlier. I'll bring it up now. What I said with the experience with some of the county GOPs, Medina County included, put together an event. VIP was to meet with Vivek. He showed up an hour and a half late because he was at an OSU game. People paid money. People paid money to that county party. And it wasn't just Medina. There were a lot of counties that this happened to because I heard about it. shows up an hour and a half late, completely misses VIP, promises young Republicans to take a photo with him, goes up there, says a speech, talks in memes, talks about how on TikTok it says only in Ohio. And that's what I want it to be, only in Ohio. What are you talking about? First of all, if you understood the meme, you would know that it's a negative thing about Ohio. Like, it didn't even make sense. Didn't take the picture with the young Republicans, didn't show up for the VIP. That's not even the worst part. You might go, well, that's pretty bad. How about the fact that voters and supporters of the county parties, plural, that this happened to, reach out to his campaign and he puts it back on the county party? Well, they knew I was going to be late. Well, they knew there might have been a conflict. They shouldn't have done that. I had prior engagements. I'm quoting. They reach out to the Twitter account, and that's what was said. So a lot of these county parties, which don't have a lot of money in the first place, hence why there's the fundraiser. They invite you to come speak because you are the candidate, and that's what you do? You put it back on the county party? So then what happens? Those people go to the county party. They go, I want a refund. And that's less money for the county party to help you get elected in November. Did we not put 2 and 2 together? Did we not understand that those are the steps that were like, they're trying to help you. They're trying to get you out there. That's another viral clip for you to put on social media, and that's the way that you repay them? That's more content so you can make commercials so you could do these other things. And that's what you do? That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Not to mention, as I said, now the next conversation they have is, hey, here's a 6-foot cutout of Amy Acton. Put that up in your booth. Because you know what Vivek isn't? Amy Acton. What a point to run on. And this is where it backfires. You know, there were a lot of studies done that campaign commercials that end in vote for so-and-so. People actually end up not voting for that person. And, you know, if all you do is promote your opponent, don't be shocked when your opponent gets votes. You're promoting them. Because here's the issue. When you're promoting your opponent as much as sending a cardboard cutout to people, to county parties so they could put it up at their fair booth or their booth out at, a bike night, whatever it might be, they're going to go, well, she's crazy. I remember when she shut down the state, what she's running on. They're going to go to amyacton.com. And it's not going to say one negative thing about what they're running on. When you are so against someone that's all you're running on, you're endorsing them because people are going to go to their website. They're going to go to their campaign website and get the information. So you're digging yourself a hole that way. You know, it's crazy that hasn't been thought of. And I don't know. And if it has been thought of, it's crazy that it's been ignored. I'm going to go on. I don't want to believe that something that simple with a campaign, promote yourself over your opponent. I don't want to think that that's been ignored. And I'm going to say it again, and I'll continue to say it. If I am wrong, please, I want him to reach out to me. We can even talk privately off air. I would love for you to explain it to the voters, though. Listen, my opinion, I'm one voter. I'm one. The people that are listening is a lot more than one. So you need to let people know what's going on. And just talking to a veteran and going, wow, thank you so much for your service, as they're trying to talk about something else just so you can hurry up and get the clip over with, which has been pointed out to me a few times, is not the way to go about it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to make a plea to not only Vivek, but also his campaign. I'm going to make the plea to please help me defend you. And I'm going to say, based on the feedback that I've heard and the people that I've spoken with, the voters that I've spoken with, what needs to happen. That and more when we return. This is the Jake Underwood. Welcome back to the Jake Underwood Show right here, AM 1420, The Answer, 102.9 FM. We're also on X, Rumble, and YouTube. We have some text messages to get to. Let's see. First, somebody texted in and said, I feel so good to have someone on air finally talk about these issues with the Ohio GOP. I've just, like I said, I'd been hearing it a lot. And it finally got to the point that I go, all right, I got to say something here. And, I almost feel like I'm venting because it's been building up for a while. And I'm going, am I the only one? Am I the only one? Somebody else texts in and says, it's true. I hear many people question whether they will vote at all for governor. But these are people who would have voted for the conservative/Republican. And Don in Lakewood, and it's funny because I think this is what I'm just going to have to do. Don in Lakewood says, right, Jake, right now on air, you should say, Vivek, I challenge you right now to come on the show and answer some of the hard questions because people need and deserve some answers. And Don, you're right. I don't want it to come off as me challenging him, but apparently that's what I'm going to have to do. People deserve answers, and not these cupcake. Wow, I'm a supporter of the GOP. I'm Mr. GOP. Please, sir, talk to me and answer every question I have, sir. Like, no, you need to come in here. Look, whether you won the primary or not, you still need to earn votes. That it comes down to that. That's left, right, center, whatever it might be. You need to earn the votes. People need to be able to defend you, which that is my final plea to you. Make it so myself and people like Kenny and the people listening and the texters here, so they can defend you, so you got a snowball chance in hell of winning this thing. Because right now, going up to people, and when they go, well, why should I vote for Vivek? Remember, Amy Acton locked everything down? That's not really a good defense of why you are the best candidate. And that's what makes it so difficult with all of this. Like I said, I don't want any of this to take away from the accomplishments that he's had in his life. He has a lot of them. He's obviously very smart, well-educated, great at speaking. He's got a bunch of money, so he's made some good decisions. He's a smart guy. I'm not taking away from any of that. In fact, I almost want that to be embraced. But when you go so far, because I'm going to tell you how it comes off. And I don't even know if this is how they mean it to come off, but this is how it's coming off. When all you do is talk bad about your opponent, that means you got nothing good to say about yourself. That's not good. That doesn't send the right message. And it's concerning. Because in text messages, and I'm also receiving text messages off air on my personal phone saying, I don't know how to defend the guy. I want to. I want to be able to say, well, yeah, Amy Acton, she's talking about affordable housing. She's talking about all of these things. And you know what's crazy? Acton's team has actually been more open to coming and talking to me than Vivek's team.
That's crazy. That's insane.
But you know why? Because Acton's team understands that to win an election, because, and as I said, this is from the Ohio Secretary of State. 71% of Ohio voters are unaffiliated. 71%. So you're gonna have to get out of your comfort zone, step off the turning point stage for a bit, and maybe go to a place that, yeah, you might get booed. That's gonna happen. You're in a position of leadership, or you're trying to be. You're gonna have people that are upset with you. You're putting yourself out there in front of millions of people. You're gonna have some people who don't like you. Yeah, and you know what? If it's about the not necessarily being a Christian stuff, it's not fair. I'll give them that. It's not fair, but you got to be upfront and honest with people, because when you give the answers that you do about Jesus Christ, people are going to look at that and go, "What are you talking about? You don't believe in him. You're not a Christian." So it's going to rub people the wrong way, and it's going to come off as pandering, even if you don't mean it that way. And I'm not saying that he means it that way. But you know what? People are entitled to answers. They should be able to get some answers. And not cupcake questions at whatever event it might be. Because look, when you go into a GOP event, they're gonna kiss your cheeks because they want you to be the next governor. And here's the problem. Sir, you're creating an echo chamber. And you're always going to lose when you do that. And you're going to get into a situation where you're sitting there and you're going, well, I don't know how I lost. Everybody told me I was going to win and I was doing great. Well, that's because you didn't allow an outside opinion in. You didn't allow somebody to go, this might be a concern. If, the clapping and the good jobs block all that out. So you gotta be really careful with that. I would love to speak with Vivek. I would love it, and I wouldn't go at him. I think we all know me well enough by now to know that even if I disagree with somebody, I'm not going to go at him. What does that do? Oh, I'm going to yell on the radio. Oh, I'm so mad. Like, what does that do? It doesn't do anything.
Gotcha.
It's not 90s Howard Stern anymore. That's not the way that it works. Oh, I'm going to get really mad and go after this guy and this guy. What does that do? It doesn't do anything.
It's ripping me off, Robin. Oh.
Yeah, right. It doesn't do anything. And it doesn't have the effect that people think that it does. Like, I just want to talk to people. Look, we're in trouble. We're in some serious trouble in this country with debt going up. People can't buy houses. The middle class is disappearing. People don't know how they're going to pay their bills. They're living off of credit cards. And yeah, we could sit here and go, well, that's not my fault. Well, either way, it's happening. It's not who to blame. It's how to fix it. That's the way the conversation needs to go. Because we've been pointing blame at people. We've been pointing fingers for decades. And you know what? It's only gotten worse. Now, me personally, I think that's because government's gotten nothing but bigger. But that's a completely different discussion. I'm sick of the finger pointing. The only way that you can win an election here in the state of Ohio, especially for governor, see, people don't realize that. Mike DeWine won those independents over because he got the suburban women with the 2:00 press conferences every day and the wine with DeWine. It was the independent suburban moms. So what is Vivek doing to appeal to them? And please, I beg you, give me a way to defend you. Come on this show, answer some of the hard questions. I'm not going to sit here and rip into you. As I said, what does that do? Nothing. It gets you aggravated, and it gets me aggravated, and it gets the listeners aggravated because more than likely nothing's going to be answered, and it's just going to be a back and forth. Just answer some tough questions.
I personally need to know more than he likes orange sherbet.
Right.
I need to know more than that.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
And I mean, and Kenny, you're a Republican voter, as am I.
I vote like a pirate.
Arr.
Yes.
But like I said, there are going to be a lot of people who don't vote because they don't like either one. You got to get them to like you. It's just that, and listen, I get it. There are a lot of people who don't like me, so I understand. but like you have to get people to like you to be successful in this. Because politics and broadcasting is kind of the same thing. People don't like you, they're not going to listen. If you let the opponent speak for you, they're not going to listen. So do a better job with advertising, and then they'll listen.
Well, and it's like I said. I think I told you this during the break. Like this is gotta kind of be a wake up call. Like we like you gotta wake up, snap out of it, wake up, start campaigning, get out there. Start talking to people that, like you said, aren't already voting for you.
I feel like it's Ralphie getting pushed down the slide. After he gets done talking to Santa, and he's like, "Wake up, stupid, wake up!" And he's like, "Ah!" And he puts his foot on the slide. He goes, "No, I want a Red Ryder Carbo Action Air Rifle." You're about to go down the slide. You got to put your foot there and stop it because you're going to go down and you're not going to get your BB gun, man. It's just I'm just seeing the way that it's going and what people are saying to me. We have Jim on hold. Jim, we're going to get to you as soon as we come back. If you want to call in on this, let us know what you're thinking. The number's 216-901-0945 or text in. That number's 866-525-0955. We'll be back right after this.
National headlines matter, but what happens here in Cleveland and across Ohio matters more. That's what we talk about every day. This is the Jake Underwood Show on AM 1420. The Answer.
Welcome into the final hour of the Jake Underwood Show on this July 20th edition. It is a Monday. We're getting the week started here. I am Jake Underwood. The man behind the glass is one Mr. Kenny Kid. Hello there, Kenny.
Hi.
How's it going, Kenny?
Great.
Wonderful to hear it.
Fantastic. What a great day.
We're talking about Vivek Ramaswamy and the way that his campaign is going, and I'm receiving text messages.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah. I'm receiving text messages, and some of them are saying, please do not say this on air, but I'm getting a lot of text messages from local organizations that are saying that he won't even respond.
Ghosting him.
Yes. One who did text me and said that I could bring it up on air is Lisa Woods from McFan. She texts and she goes, I can't even get McFan. I can't give Vivek at McFan. It's disappointing. His campaign does not respond.
What?
She said that, if she could call in right now, she would, but tell the audience that she said so. So that's and I'm getting texts from different people, different organizations going, I've reached out, I've heard nothing. So what are we doing?
What is going on here?
What are we doing here? Somebody texted and said, a person's past tends to predict their future actions. So pointing out, you're not going to like this, but they said pointing out the past COVID policy is a good campaign message. Making promises for future actions is meaningless. How many politicians actually do what they say they would? Okay. All right. So let's be fair. Let's be completely fair here. Okay? Because I don't know that people are aware of some of the things Vivek was involved in when it came to COVID, especially here in the state of Ohio. So, and I'm going to be fair here. We know what Amy Acton did. We know the next slide, the 100,000 death prediction, all these different things, right? Did you know that Vivek actually, he was an advisor to Ohio's COVID response. He was an advisor. In a 2021 op-ed, Ramaswamy wrote that he worked with Lieutenant Governor John Husted as an advisor during Ohio's COVID response. He publicly supported COVID vaccines. He encouraged people to wear masks. His company played a role in the COVID vaccine technology. In fact, one of his companies, they proposed a national COVID registry. So one of his companies proposed using a national registry to identify people with natural immunity so they could return to normal activities, while others would remain under restrictions until vaccinated or immune. So if we're going to talk about the past, I would say it's pretty even when it comes to COVID. And like I said, I'm not saying that to poke or anything, but if we're going to talk about one side or the other, when it comes to COVID, it's kind of the same. That's why, are you trying to just shift it completely onto Amy Acton? You know, if you talked about policy, yeah, COVID would still be brought up, but at least you would have your policy to fall back on. So people would at least have an idea of what you plan to do and how you want to do it. And to that texter, you know, you're not wrong when you say how many politicians actually do what they say they would. Yeah, some of them do, some of them don't. But if we're going to talk about and like I said, I'm just being fair because that texter brought it up. What are some of the past things with Amy Acton, with COVID? What are some of the things Vivek? Now you can make the argument, well, Vivek wasn't in a position of power in the government. No, but he was advising. He was advising the direction to go. He played a major role in the COVID vaccine technology. His company did. So if we're going to call it one way, we have to call it the other.
Has he been asked about this? I haven't seen it anywhere.
Probably not. Well, no, he's going to GOP events. Why would he be asked about it? Who's going to ask him? Because we've got, it's Congressman Max Miller brought it up. It's the messaging. It's the party messaging. What's more important, finding out the truth or winning the election? Getting answers for things that happen or the party message? Me personally, I think it's getting answers to the questions that need to be asked. I've always thought that. And I know a lot of people think that way. Just when it's in the moment, they might not necessarily think that way.
If for whatever reason, and it's not like it's a slim possibility, but if he does not win in November, there needs to be a complete overhaul of the GOP, of the Ohio GOP.
Well, yeah, to be honest,
this is absolutely insane.
People have been calling for that for a long time.
I know, but I mean, there was really no primary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there really was no primary.
Well, now hold on.
I voted for Casey Putsch just because.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
And there were a lot of people who did that.
Just because, not because I agreed with. I really don't know what either one of them was standing for.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't the instant endorsement that Vivek got. So that's why I voted for it.
Yeah,
I want Vivek to win. Trust me, I want him to win. I don't know why though.
No, I don't, Kenny. I don't mean to laugh, but that's the perfect way to put it.
He's not her.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't know why.
Yeah. No, but you know what? That's where a lot of voters are. And when you don't take the time to actually answer questions, dive in on things, and you just stand up there and you do your wave and you say something and then you do your head nod. Mm-hmm. People see through that. You have to remember something when it comes to that speech pattern. Because I'll tell you, James Fishback down in Florida, he does the same thing when he's speaking, and it's the same speech pattern, and people see through it. Now, I will say this: James Fishback, he's talked about policy and different things, but this is the problem. I don't know what the policies are because they've changed. I hear constant, just it changes up. It goes back and forth. Let's go to Jim. Jim, you're in the air.
Jake.
Yes.
I think I've connected the dots. I think I've got all my dots on my dice. Jim Renacci was talking about the independent voter.
Okay.
So the Democrats are going to eat their own. And they have. They've shown it. Putting in cackle bridges and Joe Biden and Obama. And the Donalds and the Republicans are afraid to be a Republican. So both the Democrat and the Republicans that don't want to be harassed by Uncle Sam, they're getting into the independent category. The Donald said they are not going after me, they're going after you. And AI is going to put you in a category. How about that? Talk about a little bit about that.
Well, but
have a nice day.
Well, but Jim, Donald Trump is pushing for the AI data centers and things. No.
Well, he doesn't know. This is Uncle Sam. This is the deep state. This is somebody that he can't even fathom the power they have.
All right, Jim, thank you for the call. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about this. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Jake Underwood Show right here, AM 1420, The Answer, 102.9 FM, or you can watch us on Rumble, X, YouTube. When you search the Jake Underwood Show, someone texted in and said his name should be Vivek.
Vivek is good.
Instead of Vivek. Yeah, like I said, I don't want this to come off as me, attacking or anything like that, and I don't think it has. And if you think it has, then you might need to go back and listen on the podcast this afternoon.
It's a plea.
It honestly, it is. It's a plea of just, can you come on and answer some of the hard questions? Can you start to appeal to the people that are going to win you this election? You got the Republican vote, man. They're going to vote for you. I mean, especially that voter group of 55 and older. President Trump gave you the endorsement. J.D. Vance gave you the endorsement. Turning Point endorsement. And you got the Ohio GOP endorsement 10, 15 years ago at this point. Like, you got the Republican voters. You got them. Start to appeal to the people that might not necessarily be voting for you. And I got questions I want to ask. A lot of the texters have questions that they want to ask. So come on and answer. And like I said, if anything I said this entire time was incorrect, you guys have the phone number. I've gone back and forth. You have my email. You know how to reach us. Tell us that we're wrong. I want you to. If I'm incorrect here, then tell me. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm open to it. I'm absolutely open to it. But I'm going to round up. I think that's going to be fair instead of going like 18.7. So it's basically 72% of voters are unaffiliated. Like, really think about that. If you're going to a game, okay, let's say you're walking into a football game, and you got, we'll say 10% Steeler fans, we'll say 19% Browns fans, and then everybody else is just wearing a blue shirt that says NFL. First of all, I think you would really understand then. Like, imagine that in a stadium. That's Ohio voters right now. That's how that's broken down. So what do you have to do? You got. Can you imagine every time your team scores, you're the only people cheering? You're going to want to high-five that person next to you. They're going to look at you like you're nuts. Why? Because you have to win them over. That's when you have to sit there and you have to go, you need to be a Browns fan. You understand? They have great history. Have you heard of Otto Graham? Like, but that's what we need to be doing. And the Browns, obviously people know the history, so we can persuade people that way. But if we don't have the policies, if they're not there in front of us to be able to look at them, or, I don't know, if the candidate doesn't want to talk to local media, we rip LeBron James for not talking to local media. Like, I'm staying consistent here. Like, I'm not changing up. The guy needs to be more available. He really does. And like I said, in no way am I endorsing Amy Acton. It is nothing like that. I expect more out of the candidates that have gotten all of these endorsements. And there are questions that need to be answered. Like I said, and I know people don't want to talk about it, but the stuff with COVID, the one that really, what was the National COVID Registry? You got to answer questions about that. You absolutely have to. Because, we were freaking out about the show me your papers. That's literally show me your papers. Well, are you immune or not? Well, I'm not immune. I'm sorry, sir. You're not allowed out of your house today. That's unfortunate. You're out of food? That's too bad. Oh, you are immune. Well, wonderful. Welcome back to society, good sir. And the same numbers, and this is why they avoid it, because the same things we can say about Amy Acton, we can say about Vivek when it comes to this, or Vivek, depending on, But it's the same things that you can say. The argument can be made both ways. That's why it's very odd to me that they would focus as much on Amy Acton as they are, because they're just going to try to push down what they did. Just explain it. You can come forward and go, well, yeah, obviously they were working with the same data. So maybe Amy Acton wasn't that crazy. Here, this is the problem. This is the big problem I have. And Kenny, you make that noise, but listen to my point here. Maybe Amy Acton wasn't that crazy. Vivek had the same response. Vivek, I would argue, with the registry, wanted to go even further. So maybe the data wasn't that outlandish. Or maybe everybody just got swept up in the moment and went, ooh, control, money, let's go. Because that's how it comes off. And unfortunately, he won't answer the questions. He won't come on for these kind of questions. You know, he's traveling, he's doing all this stuff. And look, he's a business guy, so I'll give him that. But come on, man. Like, really. Like, you, and you know, with this show, like, we have secretaries on in the Trump administration a few times a month, different secretaries. Like, we have Max Miller who calls in weekly. You're telling me that you can't make time? You don't even hold the office yet. I mean, is the campaign too much? Like, what is it? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And that's why like I said, I don't know that it's whoever's making those decisions on the campaign, it's rough. The standout of Amy Acton making it sports again. If you go to a Browns Hall of Fame signing, they're going to have Terry Bradshaw cutouts at the table. What are we doing? What are we doing? Because technically that is your opponent. That's the complete opposite, and Browns and Steelers are opposites. Like, you would walk past a Cleveland Browns table and there's a Terry Bradshaw cutout, you'd go, what the hell is that?
I'm just hoping that it's about to ramp up. I'm hoping.
Kenny?
I'm not seeing any signs of that. Like, I've got no reason to think that, but I mean, we're almost in August. Election's just a couple of months away. I really hope that it's just about to ramp up, and maybe that this is just a little too early. Maybe I don't know, or maybe this lights a fire. You know,
I don't know. But I want to. This is how, just so people can realize how outlandish this is. Imagine you work for a county party, and you get that box, and it says on it, Team Trump. You're like, ooh, President Trump sending us stuff. We're going to get him elected. Absolutely, let's do our part. You open the box, and there's a cardboard cutout of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Ugh. You get to put that up in your booth. That would make no sense. None. It wouldn't even follow the messaging. So that's of all the things. Well, the COVID response is number one. I would love to have an answer for why we're not, or because look, you can explain it. And look, if he just comes out and if he goes, yeah, no, that was wrong. That's on me. I was looking at some data. I got ahead of myself. You know, I in my head it was, I got to try to take care of people. We got to do whatever we can. This is something that's going to kill people. I might think, I might not agree with it, but I could look at it and go, okay. But you know what? I'd have to be just as fair to Amy Acton. Mm-hmm. So is it that the data was just so outlandish that they were given that they went to extremes like shutting down the state or wanting or proposing a national COVID registry?
Like, again, with when it comes to COVID, I'll accept that early on. Your first 2 weeks, maybe even to a month, you know, when we really had no idea what was going on, I'll accept that. You know, error on the side of caution. But once you start seeing what's actually going on, then you need to revise those plans, which they never did. Now, granted, for Vivek, he wasn't instituting these plans. This was just advice, you know. So I don't know when that stopped.
Correct.
I don't know.
I'll give you that.
I don't know if there was an awakening, you know, type thing.
But during 2020 to 21, he was advising all of it in the state of Ohio. He was advising Lieutenant Governor Houston. Mm-hmm. And those were the people that were ultimately. So, you know, you can say, yeah, he wasn't making the decisions, but he was giving the people who made the decisions their information. It's what I talked about with Tulsi Gabbard, the reason why she was so important at DNI, because she was the one giving that information to President Trump, and then he was making the decisions. The way that I'm understanding this is Vivek was that person with the information who was giving it to Lieutenant Governor Houston, Governor Mike DeWine, and Dr. Amy Acton, and going, Here's the information. Make your decision. So if we're going to be mad at Amy Acton for the information for the decision she made off the information, shouldn't we be just as pressed and just as upset at the person who gave it to her? If so, that's Vivek. Based on this, he wrote an op-ed in 2021 talking about how he was advising them. That's the question I'm asking. I'm just asking a question. That's all I'm doing. I'm just asking the questions. Because I'm going to be as fair as possible when it comes to this. If you can rip the one side for making bad decisions based on the information, I can rip the other person for giving bad information. This is the Jake Underwood Show. We're going to take a break, get a check on traffic. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the final half an hour of the Jake Underwood Show right here, AM 1420, The Answer. Somebody texted in this from the 216. It says, guys, I'm not exactly sure what all the hoodoo is about because I'm in and out of listening. Do you remember Vivek started campaigning, like, I don't know, a year or two ago? Well, it wasn't 2 years ago because that was president. That was the primary and everything. That's when he was trying to get in with the administration, with Doge and all of that.
Yeah. So
it would have been, maybe a year ago. Maybe.
Maybe a year ago, but there really wasn't much to it.
Right.
Because he got that instant endorsement.
Right.
And then really, because we were complaining going into the primaries that there wasn't anything going on there.
This is what bothers me about it. I didn't like that the Democrats didn't have any debates with Biden and Kamala Harris when she, not really her because she was put up there after all of that, but I didn't like that the Democrats didn't have debates with Joe Biden. I didn't like that.
I didn't like how they just installed her as the candidate after.
Right, and I didn't like that either. So when I see the same happening here, but we say that, no, this time it's different because it's with the Republicans. It's not different. It's just a different color. The bad ones who did it were blue. The good ones were red. That's where you start to lose, and you lose a lot of people with that. And I'm just being honest. This is what I'm hearing. The more, it's been enough people that I need to talk about this. If it were one or two people or even 10 or 15 people, I'd be like, okay, yeah, but it's enough people that I'm getting messages about. I mean, and even some of the texters here. I mean, we had the one earlier that said thank you. Because nobody's talking about the issues with the Ohio GOP. And Kenny, you brought it up, and I agree wholeheartedly. There needs to be a reset. There needs to be some. I don't know if it's I don't know. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be that new mindset with it where you have to understand that, while majority of registered voters in the state of Ohio that are a party affiliated, it's Republican. It's not this deep red. I swear I repeat myself a few times a week about this, but it's not that deep red. And what I'm nervous about is with this campaign that is the assumption that it is this deep red. And I'm going to say it again. If I'm wrong, his campaign knows how to reach me. Please tell me I'm wrong. Come on here and tell me how wrong I am. Answer some of these questions that people have. Because I'm going to be honest. Excuse me, no cough button today. Excuse me. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't necessarily think that the criticism for the fact that he's not Christian is fair. One of the pillars of this country is freedom of religion. So I don't think that's a fair criticism, but I understand why people would sit there and go, this doesn't feel right to me. I get that. You want your elected official to have the same faith and believe that if something bad were going to happen, that they want to be good with God. I understand that. I get that. Now, with that said, I don't understand the ins and outs of Hinduism, so I'm not going to sit here and compare because I don't know. I'm ignorant on the subject. I'm man enough to admit that I don't know everything. There's a lot of things I don't know, but I'm always willing to find out. And so that part of it, I get it. I understand why people would look at it and be upset about that. But at the same time, it is a pillar of this country. The Pilgrims came here. That was one of the main things. They were like, hey, we want to make sure we're good to, worship who we want to worship. But that doesn't change the fact that it needs to be addressed by the campaign. It absolutely needs to be addressed by the campaign. So as I said, I am more than happy. I am more than willing to talk to him. If I'm wrong about something, tell me that I'm wrong. That's all I'm saying. But and I also said, neither one of them are Christian. So honestly, just address it. It's a wash. I don't know. Let's go to Rick. Rick, you're in the air.
Yeah, you talk about, I can never say his name, Vivek, talking about Jesus, but he's not Christian. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure. What his belief is?
He's I believe he's Hindu.
Hindu?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if in the Bible, because I know you say you go to church, and I'm sure you read the Bible, there was a time whenever the apostles said to Jesus, "We saw someone talking and casting out demons in your name, and he's not one of us." And Jesus said, "If he's not against us, he's for us." And so, okay, him being Hindu and Amy being non-religious, I put more faith in him because Hindus, they don't really try to change the government when they're in another, like in the United States, as opposed to like Amy, she would be more swayable because she didn't have any belief.
Well, no, but Amy Acton does. She's Jewish, Rick.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Amy Acton's Jewish.
Okay, now, but if she came out as forgot what they call a Jewish that convert to Christianity, but if she did, then I would say fine, she's a Christian. But all I'm saying is, if she's not even claiming her Jewishness, and like I said, I didn't know that, but I still think about how she was during the pandemic, the Chinese virus, and all that. And I just don't want to take a chance of her doing that as a governor and having even more power. So I'd feel more comfortable going with Vivek.
Now, Rick, I don't disagree with you, but does it concern you that Vivek was one of the advisors to Lieutenant Governor John Husted and that GOP faction there that made the decisions during COVID? So Vivek was advising them.
Well, you got a point, and I'm not going to argue with you.
And I'm not. Yeah, I'm not bringing it up to argue. I'm just curious.
No. Yeah, no, I guess I didn't know that much about that, but I still feel more comfortable voting for him than I do for her. So to just say I'm not going to vote, I'd rather try to make an effort and vote for who I believe is right and be wrong than to not vote at all and, not even have a say in the game.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that makes sense, Rick. I understand that. And thank you for the call, Rick. I understand that way of thinking.
One thing real quick. Vivek's not a doctor. So
no.
Was he advising like just as a businessman?
Because
that's one thing I'll fall back on is she should have known better being the doctor.
But she
should have known better.
But you do have to his businesses were medical. Like I said, his company played a key role in the vaccine technology. So they would have known the who's and what's and when's of what they were trying to quote unquote prevent. So I mean, you would have had to work hand in hand. So then you would have the updates on the vaccines as well as the numbers.
Okay.
I mean, that's how it's making sense to me. I mean, I have to assume because I have no answers here. Yes. But this is how it makes sense to me. COVID comes along. They go, oh no, COVID is here. This is going to get really bad. We need vaccines. Vaccines come along. So then at that point, the people that are trying to combat COVID and the people that are trying to make the vaccines then at that point are talking to each other. All right, what are you doing? How long is it going to be until we have the vaccine? What needs to happen with the shutdowns? And let's not forget that he proposed a national registry for those who were immune and non-immune. That's pretty extreme. That don't sit right with me. And I would want some answers on that, and I think we deserve answers on that. What if it turns out everybody's eating Taco Bell and they got the boom booms? Are we going to have to lock down? Is there going to be a registry? Did you eat Taco Bell this week? Did you not? You know what I mean? And I know that's funny and there's comedy to that, but the point is still there. This is the Jake Underwood Show. We're going to take a break. We come back. Final segment. We'll put a bow on the show. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Jake Underwood Show, right here, AM 1420, The Answer. It is the final segment on this Monday, July 20th, 2026. We're talking about Vivek. We're talking about the way, just his campaign, all of that. We have some text messages to get to because COVID is a big thing to bring up during this. I don't think a lot of people realize that Vivek had some involvement when it came to advising the way that the state government was handling COVID. Let's see here. Somebody texted in. They said COVID was unprecedented. In retrospect, the hands of everyone in power were dirty. The question is, who is willing to admit to mistakes that were made and who's not? That's from Don in Lakewood. You know what?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that.
That'll go a long way.
I would agree with that. Somebody says, hold on, here we go. Amy Acton and Sherrod Brown. The question for voters is this. Why do we want to reward proven failed leadership with another chance to further failures? Your friend and brother in Christ, Liberty Valley Church, Dennis Polk. And you know what? That's a fair point too. Like, look, I'm going to say it. I think both sides kind of screwed the pooch when it came to these candidates. They're not great candidates. I mean, for the Democrat, I mean, I will say this, for the Democrats, Sherrod Brown is a good candidate because, you know, he's got the name recognition. He's going to win. But I'm saying for governor, I mean, neither one has like jumped ahead because both have those things against them.
You really think Sherrod Brown's going to win? I don't think that's a lock by any means.
I think where John Husted, because you know what, honestly, what I'm saying about Vivek, a little bit can be said about Husted too. But at least Husted's in office, so that makes a little more sense. But I think you're going to have more people that will go, I'm going to vote for Vivek and Sherrod Brown than you will people that say, I'm going to vote for Amy Acton and John Husted.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, yeah, so you're going to have that crossover. Now, that's John Husted's going to have to be careful with that.
But I don't, and I think that's only by default that I think, because I think there's more people whose vote is swayable when you're leaning right on the Republican side, even of the independent, the right-leaning independents. I think they're a little more swayable when it comes to a vote than anyone on the left.
What do you mean, Kenny? Don't you know this is a deep red state?
No. I mean,
what do you mean? Don't you know that?
But I think that's a toss-up as well. I think the governor and the senator
agree
are both extremely tossed.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Because the same conversation we had today about stuff with Vivek campaign, I could say the same with John Husted also.
Yeah, the only difference is that Houston is actually
he's in office.
In office right now.
Right.
He's in that seat right now.
Right.
And he can go on record as far as this is
Correct.
what I've done.
Correct.
You know? And that's a difference with him and Sherrod Brown is what Houston's doing as opposed to what Sherrod Brown has already failed to do.
Correct.
Over the 35, how many years was it that he was in office? It was at least 20.
At least.
Like that.
Yeah. This is what I'm worried about. Imagine the debate, okay, between Amy Acton and Vivek, and they start going at it about the COVID response. What's going to happen when Amy Acton goes, you advised us on that COVID response that you're ripping me for? That was by your information and your advice. So if I'm to blame, so are you. What happens then?
Well,
because if that happens, first of all, that's a great campaign strategy out of Amy Acton's team. I'm just saying. But things like that happen.
Yeah, but you've got to be able to look at advice, especially being the doctor. You've got to be able to look at advice and say, no, that one doesn't really jive. You can't blame the guy who's giving you advice.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
You're the one making the decision.
I'm not disagreeing with you,
and
but what I'm saying is,
you're the doctor. So you look at the information that's given to you,
right,
and you put your doctor hat on, and you figure out whether that's right or not.
But
and then you implement it.
It's really connected. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of weaving. We talk about weaving with President Trump. There's a lot to weave here. Let's see.
All smells the same.
Yeah, right. Let's all go to let's go to some phone calls here. Let's go to TJ. TJ, you're in the air.
Yeah, Jake, we elected Trump because we wanted a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted somebody that was going to make this country grow, bring manufacturing back. Now, when you look at Acton and you look at Vivek, I don't care about the COVID. That's water over the dam. A lot of people made some bad decisions at the time, but they didn't look like bad decisions at the time. What I want is Vivek because he's a businessman. He's smart. He knows how to bring industry, to Ohio. He's too rich to be bought. This shouldn't even be a debate, between the two of these. This woman is not qualified to do anything but feel good. Vivek, like I said, has a track record of creating industries, and I don't really care what either one of them religious belief are. Mm-hmm. But to me, this is a no-brainer. Vivek is the man to put in charge. If we want to see Ohio grow and take advantage of what we got, you're not going to do it with Amy Acton, but you're going to do it with Ramaswamy.
TJ, no, those are good points, and thank you for the call. Yeah, those are good points. Somebody texted in and said, I heard Acton at Des Moines on those COVID calls telling businesses that they weren't essential. Those are the voices I heard. And you know what? Once again, that I get it. I do. And I don't disagree. Oh, I used to have to run board for those. That'll make it. Ooh.
Oh, did you get to bring in a bottle and have wine with the wine?
No.
No,
I got to sit there, and then I had to listen to it again because I'd have to cut up the clips. Yeah.
Maybe they were just trying to get you to quit.
That's what it was. It didn't work. No, and you know what? There is a lot to be said about that. Those were the voices that we heard, no, you're right. But I'm just saying, if his business was sitting there and advising them, and things came out like he wanted the national registry, like he publicly supported COVID vaccines. And now remind you, this national registry that he spoke about was natural immunity versus non-immunity. And if you had immunity, then you can go out and about into the world. But if you didn't, you weren't allowed. That's some scary stuff. That's just as scary as what we talked about with Amy Acton. That's all I'm saying. So and like I said, I would love to ask him these questions. As I said to begin all of this is nothing personal against him. He's very smart. He's a good businessman. He's made a lot of money for himself. And listen, I'm never going to knock somebody for making money. Never going to do that. Make as much money as you can. That's your right as an American. But when these things are coming out and I see the mistakes that have been made with this campaign, and I don't understand it. Like I said, I don't have the most campaign experience in the world, but I've worked in national campaigns at a pretty high level. I've worked at PACs at a pretty high level. I've lobbied at a high level. I've worked statewide campaigns. I've worked local campaigns. I've advised them. I'm looking at this. I'm going, I don't understand it. Help me defend you. Help me defend you. Have that availability where when people are reaching out to you, like the local organizations, like a McFan, or when you are late to a county GOP event, don't put it on the county GOP. Be a leader. Take that accountability. And by all means, when local media reaches out to you, don't give them the LeBron treatment. Talk to them. And I would love to talk to him. I am pleading again. Talk to me. Talk to us. Because like I said, it's not me you're ignoring. It's the hundreds of thousands of voters in this area that you're ignoring. When we don't get a text back, we don't get an email back. And come November, if you lose, you only have yourself and the people on your campaign to blame. I don't want that to happen. So just come on and answer questions. Because there's a lot of them. And the texters, they want to know the answers also. And you know what? That's fair. It's fair for people to demand answers out of for the questions that they have out of somebody who might lead their state. This has been the Jake Underwood Show. I want to thank everybody for calling in. We have some people on hold. I'm sorry I couldn't get to you. Yeah, what a show. Tomorrow we're going to have Jim Renacci on. We'll pick his brain. I'll pick his brain about this a little bit. See what he has to say, as well as there's some stuff going on with the flock cameras. We'll talk about that. Tell someone about Jesus today. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.